to put their interest first. Colonel Vindman said, "Here right matters." Here right matters. Well, let me tell you something. If right doesn't matter, it doesn't matter how good the Constitution is. It doesn't matter how brilliant the framers were. It doesn't matter how good or bad our advocacy in this trial is. It doesn't matter how well written the oath of impartiality is. If right doesn't matter, we're lost. If the truth doesn't matter, we're lost. The framers couldn't protect us from ourselves if right and truth don't matter. And you know that what he did was not right. You know, that's what they do in the old country that Colonel Vindman's father came from, or the old country that my great-grandfather came from, or the old countries that your ancestors came from, or maybe you came from. But here, right is supposed to matter. It's what's made us the greatest nation on earth. No Constitution can protect us. Right doesn't matter anymore. And you know you can't trust this president do what's right for this country. You can trust he will do what's right for Donald Trump. He'll do it now. He's done it before. He'll do it for the next several months. He'll do it in the election if he's allowed to. This is why, if you find him guilty, you must find that he should be removed. Because right matters. Because right matters. And the truth matters. Otherwise, we are lost.
Ms. Chief
Majority
Justice.
Leader is recognized.
I ask unanimous consent that the trial adjourn until 1 p.m. Friday, January the 24th, and that this order also constitute the adjournment of the Senate.
Without objection, so ordered. The Senate is adjourned. Is that right?
And the House impeachment managers are down to about 8 hours of their time before President Trump's defense team takes their 24 hours. The Washington Post is saying in a headline, Democrats emphasize abuse of power charge against Trump as GOP complains of repetition. The New York Post has an article. Rudy Giuliani threatens to go public with Biden corruption allegations. Quote, everything I tried to tell the press last March is now coming out and more. I will now start to reveal the evidence directly to you, the people. The former mayor tweeted, the Biden family enterprise made millions by selling public office. Then when Joe was Obama's point man, they all made millions. That's in the New York Post. We're going to get your reaction now to what you've seen today. We're also going to be looking for the senators to react to what they've heard today, and we'll be doing that all live. There are the numbers on the screen. Dial in on the right one, and if you text us, please be careful and text that exact number so we're not bothering any of our friends. 202-748-8003. Include your name and your state. Let's hear from John in Charlotte, North Carolina on our independent line. John, what'd you hear today?
Well, what I heard as a patriot thoroughly disgusts me. The complicity of Republicans and I call him the impotus, in carrying out Valerie Pruden's orders to try and destroy our democracy has me concerned and disgusted.
John in Charlotte. Up next is Annie in Eugene, Oregon, Republican line. Go ahead, Annie.
Well, hi. I am so embarrassed to be registered as a Republican at this point. I do not understand how he can get away with all of these things that he's gotten away with. President Trump has destroyed our democracy. We have become more of a monarchy or a dictatorship. And in my opinion, right does have to matter above everything else. And if this can't be a nonpartisan decision in whether to remove him from office, then our whole system of being free is gone. And any president can do anything without any repercussion or any responsibility to the American people. It's supposed to be that we, the people, not we, the party of Republican or Democrat, it's we, the people, should have a say in all of this. And if the senators that are Republicans are not clear on the fact that they are going to be nonpartisan, then I feel like President Trump can get away with anything.
What was one of the
I
strong
feel like
arguments? What's one of the strong arguments for you?
I'm sorry?
What was one of the strong arguments you heard in the last couple of days?
The strongest argument that I've heard is that everything is black and white. And there is a point where we have to stop and say, you know, you're guilty, so you need to go. I listened to President Nixon's impeachment process. I've listened to, President Clinton's impeachment process, and this should not even be compared to either one of those. Times have changed. Everything is more electronic. And that's unfortunate because he can tweet on anybody or anybody that has a say against what he's doing. And I definitely feel like we, the people, don't have a voice anymore.
All right. Thank you, Annie. Seth Abramson of Newsweek. He's a columnist with Newsweek. He's crediting CNN. And he says that Trump is saying he'll block new evidence via executive privilege. McConnell, who promised to abide by Trump's wishes, is now telling GOP senators to vote down witnesses or documents because it would take too long to fight Trump, the same position the GOP hit Dems for. Chris, Cincinnati Democrats line. What have you heard today, Chris?
Well, I've heard today a lot of what we heard the last couple of days. The Democrats are really, as people say, are repeating. But they have to. The Republicans have blocked witnesses and documents, not just to the amendments to McConnell's resolution at the beginning of trial. They were blocking things during the impeachment hearings. A lot of people misclassified this impeachment trial as hearings, kind of downplaying it like it doesn't exist, taking a cue from the president, who has no integrity left. He has violated his integrity so much it's almost like you can't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. And the Republicans that are defending him, I don't know if they think they're going to get something out of it. I don't think that they really think that he is a good person to defend. And honestly, most of what I was going to say, Adam Schiff just said it on the floor. Right matters. And I hope that strikes a chord with every senator in that chamber. And if it doesn't, they're going to repeat the whole thing tomorrow. And the Republicans are going to have to sit through this again. If they're complaining of repetition, go ahead.
No, finish.
I'm just saying that if they're complaining of repetition, that this sounds old, it's because they weren't allowed new documents to come in.
All
so
right,
they're going to have
Chris
to
in Cincinnati. What you've been seeing on your screen are the senators leaving the Senate chamber. Susan Collins out front of the Senate outside, and some of the other senators taking the underground subway back to their offices in the Senate office buildings. San Diego Union Tribune headline, Dems press case against Trump. Next call is Ryan in New York City, Independent line. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I just want to commend Representative Schiff. I think he's done a great job. The speech to end was great, especially since he's under such stress due to his good friend Ed Buck being arrested after a second African-American male prostitute was found dead in his apartment, and his other great friend Bruce Hensel was arrested for soliciting.
All right, that was Ryan in New York, and this is Congressman Mark Meadows tweeting a general point that needs to be made. It is not President Trump's responsibility to provide unlimited witnesses until Democrats are satisfied he's innocent. They've made it clear they will never believe he's innocent regardless. Liam, Brookfield, Connecticut, Republican. You're on C-SPAN 2.
Thank you so much, Peter and C-SPAN, for your coverage during these trying times. Adam Schiff's closing remarks about the truth not mattering anymore is unfortunately correct. But the issue is not President Trump anymore. I think it's his blindly ardent supporters and the populace. It's their ignorance to economics and science, their mindless groupthink and voluntary indoctrination, the irrational fear of globalism, creating needless conflicts, making mostly incoherent and facetious insults when they're devoid of an argument, especially in highly politicized cases such as this, the silence of their dissenters, spreading quote-unquote factual articles that are just carelessly riddled with fiction, and they fight against people like Schiff for no apparent reason. They call him Shifty Schiff. It's almost akin to the 2 minutes hate against Goldstein in Orwell's 1984, except that these people make arbitrary jokes about his stare and the way that he looks. I think if Orwell was alive today, I know right now he's rolling in his grave. These people are uneducated. It's no surprise that they oppose education funding, especially for minorities. They don't understand how racist they are. It's all about hating government, despising control, but frankly, without government, we'd all be reduced to animals.
Now, Liam, you called in on the Republican line. Have you ever been a supporter of President Trump?
I was in the past until I woke up, quite frankly.
Williams in Dallas on our Democrats line. William, you're on.
Yes, I must say as a Democrat that I'm ashamed to be a Democrat right now. I've been watching these hearings, and the lies that are coming from members of my own party make me ashamed to be a Democrat. Mr. Schiff and Mr. Nadler appear to be like the stuttering lawyer in the movie My Cousin Vinny, because they absolutely don't know what they're doing, and the Democrats are letting two people run the show who are putting on the worst possible demonstration possible. Mr. Nadler said tonight or today that every person that testified said that the president committed an impeachable offense when Jonathan Turley actually said the abuse of power came from the Democrat-controlled House of Representatives. The president, I'm not supporting him, but our country is based on due process. And what I said this when Bill Clinton was being impeached, that the impeachment is not supposed to be designed as a tool of political power. Our founders feared this day, and their fears are coming true. And it disturbs me that the Democratic Party that I've been a part of is turning this into that.
That's William in Dallas, Texas. Now, the House managers have used 14 hours and 55 minutes of their allotted 24 hours. That means 9 hours and 5 minutes left in their arguments if they choose to use it. Then the Trump defense team has 24 hours to present their case over 3 days. Following that, the senators have 16 hours to question the managers and the defense team. And after that, there's a 4-hour deliberation on whether or not documents and witnesses should be added to this case. So that's all going to be live on C-SPAN 2, of course. Kenneth, Churchville, Virginia, Independent Line. Go ahead, Kenneth.
Hello. I had a couple questions, and one of them I think was answered a minute ago. That my question was that they keep talking about they didn't have time to subpoena all these witnesses and force it through the court system. apparently the president just said that he would block anything that the Senate did too. Also, I watched most of the House hearing, and I heard quite a few of the witnesses that they have on now that said that they didn't see that Trump had created a quid pro quo. The only one that did was Sondland. And he also said that he assumed that he was following the president's instructions. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Kenneth. Christine in Hampton, Virginia says, I still have hope that the truth being so clearly articulated by the House managers will set America free of this corrupt president and all his crony criminal associates. Senators must stand up for our country. That came via text. Up next is Doris in Asheville, North Carolina, Republican line. Doris, what'd you hear today? What'd you learn?
Well, I've been watching it off and on for the last everything's been going on. And Adam Schiff, as far as I'm concerned, will put sixth grade class of civics students to sleep. I think that the time that they have allotted for all this is way more than is necessary. It's getting where it's becoming boring, really. And I think that one of the speakers said earlier that they had 90,000 pages of material for the Clinton impeachment, and really all they needed was the blue dress, and that's all I have to say.
Doris, are you finding that people are talking about this in Asheville, North Carolina?
I find it, of course, it's a partisan thing here too. If you're the Democrat, you're all the way for the impeachment. If you're the Republican, which I am, then of course we think this whole thing has just become a charade. That's what it has become.
Are you retired?
I am retired. I'm 85 years old.
Yes, ma'am. Do your friends, are they watching it as well, or is it just casually on?
I think they're like I am, off and on. I think they're watching it. I don't think it's that they're sitting and watching it for steady 24 hours a day or anything like that. So it's hit or miss with most of us because it's so much repetition. It doesn't matter when you turn it on. You're hearing the same thing over and over again, so it doesn't really matter how many hours you put into it.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Now, Art Lean or Lean is a artist, and he has been drawing photos in the New York Times. Here they are. He's sitting up in the gallery. You can see some of the senators there. And you just saw Lisa Murkowski leave to go back to her office building. Here is a drawing he made of Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. These are all in the New York Times, and the artist is Art Lean or Lean, L-I-E-N. Judy, Federal Way, Washington, Democrat. Hi, Judy.
Hi.
Go ahead, we're listening.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I've been watching quite a bit of the trial, and I was switching back and forth just to see what Fox News, because I know a lot of conservative Republicans watch Fox News, and, they're not covering it full time. They have guests on, they're running all their commercials, and I just thought that was, quite interesting. And really all I have to say is my belief is now is the time for all good men and women to come to the aid of their country and their Constitution. Thank you very much.
Chris in Michigan texts in. We just heard again from the House members that no one is above the law. My question to them is, when are they going after Joe Biden for his quid pro quo with Ukraine, which he admitted to? Next call is Trey in San Antonio, Texas, Independent line. Trey, we're listening.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you for C-SPAN for providing an outlet or independence to be able to watch this coverage without having to have swing to one side or the other. I consider myself an independent in a lot of ways because of what was said in George Washington's farewell address, where he talked about how a party system with two different parties can only lead to infighting and a prisoner's dilemma, where one side is trying to get the other side to lose. And this whole trial has been kind of a display of that, in my opinion. I think it's kind of, from a pragmatist view, the Republican Party is obviously going to stand by Trump. It's really the only person they have to be able to allow themselves to stay in power. Nobody else is running behind Trump with any sort of support. So obviously they're not going to be trying to allow documents or subpoenas. However, from the Democratic side, it's just a little confusing to me. I don't know exactly what their strategy is. I see it from maybe three perspectives. One, they're trying to, I guess, be on the right side of history when people look back and try to say that they, at least put up a good fight. Two, I guess they could try to say that they're trying to give a last-ditch kind of Hail Mary effort to try to see if they could swing enough Republicans to vote for impeachment. But I think anyone with a little common sense can see they're not going to swing 15 or however many Republicans they'd need to get the 67 supermajority. So the only thing I can hope is that they're trying to provide an outlet for people who are watching to be able to get the full breadth of what Trump was responsible for in this whole incident. But I'm not too optimistic, considering I've been looking at the ratings on this trial, and from my friends and everyone else that I talk to, not a lot of people are watching, and it makes me a little disconcerted. So I can only hope that people will be watching, or at least getting the updates and trying to consider for themselves for the upcoming election, because I think that's really the only way you'll get Trump out of office.
So in casual conversations, you're finding that people are not that interested?
Not in my
San Antonio?
age group. I'm a millennial. Yeah, exactly. And so the people that I try to speak to, a lot of people are seeing this as a foregone conclusion. Not a lot of people are even considering this worth watching. I've been watching pretty much the entirety of the coverage, and while I think that Schiff is very eloquent with his wording of how he's been trying to get the message across of what has been discovered in the House, I don't know it'll make much of a difference in terms of the trial itself. I can just hope that the information they've discovered and their presentation of what they've discovered will be enough to help convince people to vote him out in 2020.
What do you do for a living, Trey?
I'm a stage manager, so I work in the theater industry, so I'm surrounded by a lot of people who also agree that, they're a little bit more Democratic leaning. And so a lot of people are considering this to be just the foregone conclusion. And I try to convince them to at least pay attention so they can be more informed, because I think a republic is only as good as the people who are voting. And I would hope that people could at least take this opportunity to see for themselves exactly what the breadth of what Trump has done will affect this country. And I think a democracy of apathy is not a democracy.
Thank you for calling in. Thomas, Shirley, New York. Thomas, Shirley, New York, Republican. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, how are you this evening?
How are
Good
you?
evening. Okay, I'm Thomas Gustafson, Local 138, International Union of Operator Engineers. We have unions throughout the country. And what I'm seeing the last 3 days is just repetitive. They'll go over different scenarios. It's all hearsay. It's nothing new since Congress impeachment. It's the same scenario. All they want to do now is manipulate and brainwash the American public to steer to whatever their desire is. Adam Schiff nailed it on the head yesterday, by the way, and he got caught with a phrase that was very threatening, in my opinion, when he stated, the voters, he can't trust the voters. He said that yesterday. He can't trust the voters. So I say, who do you trust? The Democrats? Are they going to believe the voting system in 2020? This is very serious allegations he put out there yesterday. I believe that Trump is doing an excellent job. Who cares about a phone call? The bottom line in the United States is the American dollar, the economy, the wages, the jobs. He's fighting for America. Yes, he called Ukraine. They have a history of corruption. He wants to make sure that when we send money there is no more corruption.
That's Thomas in Shipley, New York, setting out his marker. Andrews in Los Angeles, Democrat.
Hi, how are you doing tonight?
How are you?
I'm good. I want to thank you for your coverage of this. I've been watching. It's wild that the Senate controls the camera, and I wonder how they're editing our experience of it through that control. But I just want to bring up, everyone kind of conflates Donald Trump with The Apprentice, but in reality, if you look at his history of his construction projects, if you look at the trail of disaster businesses that he's left in his wake, from the stakes to the university, and now him and his children aren't even allowed to serve on any nonprofits, due to mismanagement of funds, and it blows my mind that they didn't go after him for emoluments. But I think it's the severity of the Ukraine situation, fighting a war with Russia on the border, that I think that took precedence. And I feel like the House managers thought that would be a more pertinent case to bring before the Senate.
Now, Andrew mentioned the Senate cameras. That is correct. C-SPAN does not control the cameras in the Senate. And if you've noticed during this impeachment trial, you get that opening shot where you see the whole dais and you can see the managers sitting at tables on each side, but you don't get to see the senators. And then you get the shot of just the speaker. Those are controlled by the U.S. Senate. We requested to put our cameras in there as well so we could make it a more full picture and get maybe some senators in there. We were turned down, so we don't control those. Thank you for pointing that out, Andrew. Well, Jordan Carney tweets out that Weekend Impeachment Trial Watch, a couple of senators are telling her they think the Saturday session will start at 9 a.m. and they expect it to be shorter. Harold's up in Alaska, in Kenai, Alaska, on our independent line. Hi, Harold.
Yeah, good evening there, and thank you for taking my call. Yeah, I really think this started probably before the president was sworn in. They went after him, which is kind of sad for the country. But I used to be Democrat, but I voted Republican in the last election. I probably vote Republican again.
Now, Harold, have you contacted your Senator Lisa Murkowski, who's getting a lot of news coverage during this trial?
Yes, I have.
And what'd you tell her? What'd you tell her office?
Well, I told her we need to be behind this president because I feel it's the right thing to do.
And what kind of response did you get?
Well, she kind of hum-hawed around, but she said she really needs to see a little more evidence to make a decision.
All right. How long have you lived in Alaska, Harold?
I've been born and raised in Alaska.
All right. Thank you, sir, for calling in. Damon's in Los Angeles, Democrat, and you're on C-SPAN 2.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to say one thing. I know I'm a Democrat, but I'm an American first, and this is the one thing that scared me throughout all this. I've been watching from day one. When you don't let people have a defense, they can't get – everything is done to where it's behind closed doors until you want the cameras to come on. You're not getting anything. And the number one thing that's bugging me more, the House's job is to make a case to bring before the Senate. They didn't do their job. Now they're in the Senate begging for the Senate to do their job, and that's not what the Senate is for. They're there to be the judge and the jury. They're not there to make a case. The last thing, and every American needs to think about this, whether Donald Trump is wrong or right, since he's been president, everybody from the Democratic side, new millenniums, don't like him, but everything he's done has been good for this country. So at some point, Americans need to remember one thing. We're Americans first. America. That's why every other country in the world wants to be like us. And you know we're a great country because you can have these trials and everybody get their opinion.
Now, Damon, are you to the point where you feel like supporting the president, given the remarks you just made?
I'm going to tell you this. As an American, I support him 100%. Whatever president they put in, once we elect them, our job is to support them. Whether we voted for them or not, they're the president. Americans stand behind one another. Since World War I, World War II, Vietnam, we've always stood together. Wrong or right, America sticks together.
How much attention have you been paying to this trial?
I've been paying attention since Donald Trump became president. I told everybody he was. I didn't vote for him, but he became the president, which means he's our president. Quit making excuses. and stand up as an American and support the president.
What do you do in L.A.?
Me, I'm a building engineer. I vote Democrat. I vote for Republicans when I think they're right. I vote for independents. What it is as a country, wrong or right, we've done good things and bad things, but we stand up for us. Right now, we don't get to the new millennium. Everybody wants to be on news, make their mark, but they're forgetting we stand for us. Every other country in the world likes what America is. They want to come here. They want to be here.
All right. Thank you, sir, for calling in. Bob is next, and Bob's in Ruther Glen, Virginia, Republican. Bob, what did you learn today?
Hey, didn't learn a whole lot other than the same thing we've seen for about the last 6 weeks. Just trying to figure out with the phone call, everything keeps tying into the 2020 election. I've heard nothing about the 2020 election. Everything with the phone call seemed to me like Trump was looking behind the 2016, trying to eliminate the corruption. And I'm just trying to figure out, I have yet to see anything about where this corruption phone call has tied into the 2020 election. I'm trying to find out. Somebody explain that to me.
Well, you mentioned repetitiveness, and the Washington Post lead headline right now is Democrats emphasize abuse of power charge against Trump as GOP complains of repetition. Tim is next down in Cape Coral, Florida, independent. Go ahead, Tim.
Yes, sir. I am a patriot. I am retired military. My father was also retired military and is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. I just want to say that in my lifetime, we've experienced a lot of tragedies, and this is one that really has divided this country. And I want the people to remember, I am really not of a party affiliation, and I decided years ago, probably 6 years ago, to be that way, because we are the people that run this country, and our vote counts. Whether you like it, don't like it, you vote, and you make it count. They want to talk about term limits, you just got to vote, and they have term limits. You mentioned something about the cameras, and one of the interesting things that I want to remind you, if we had the cameras panning all over the place, every network would be drawn to, look at that senator, he's not paying attention. Now we're paying attention to the speakers present their case. It is very important that we see that and we understand it. Give them a chance to present their case and let the Republicans have their chance to present or say there is no evidence that's shown factual to be here. It's repetitious. I wish the Congress had fallen completely the lines of the subpoena process and gone to a higher court. Even if Trump said no, they would have gone to a higher court and it would have been overruled. Those people would have had to have been subpoenaed in, and this would have been a done deal that way. And they should have followed that line of the law to get that done.
Tim, thank you from Cape Coral, Florida, for giving us a different perspective, especially on the cameras. Sharina in St. Louis, Missouri, Democrat. Sharina, please go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to say that I've been following along with these hearings since they were in the House and listening to these every day this week. And I'm appalled but not surprised by what Trump has done. And by the way, by Fox News and their bias by not even airing the trials. And I think the Democrats are doing a really impressive job in the face of the obstruction of the president, and they have a lot of limitations, but I still think they're doing an excellent job, and I really like listening to Adam Schiff. And I think it's really mind-boggling to hear these complaints about the repetitiveness when that's by design. It's a consequence of the president withholding documents, blocking witnesses, and Republicans not agreeing to allow the witnesses before the trial. So, why would, of course we don't have anything new. You won't allow anything new to be brought up. So, and I was really struck by what I heard that the foreigner said this week. It characterized Trump as like a cult leader, and that's kind of what it seems like here. People just blindly are like blindly loyal to Trump, and I don't see why people don't see. It's clear to me with the Democrats that how they explain it. It's clear he did something wrong. He's guilty.
Sharina, what do you do in St. Louis?
I'm a statistician.
And you seem to have spent or paid a lot of attention to this trial.
Yeah, because it's important. It really is. This is. I think if it goes the wrong way, it's just undermining everything that like we stand for as Americans. It's bad enough we have Trump anyway. I feel bad that I'm even represented by him, but we need to do the right thing here. This is important. I hope that everyone is paying attention, and I know that everyone thinks, of course, it's gonna. We already know how this is going to pan out. The Republicans have the majority, so why even bother paying attention? I think everyone should just hear all the facts for themselves and, at least be able to make their own opinion, even though we don't get to actually vote this time. And, the next election,
now, will you,
do the right thing.
Sharina, will you be listening next week when the Republicans present their case, or the Trump defense team presents its case?
Oh, I will, because I think we all should do that. We're all, people are biased and they only want to listen to, people who speak in agreement with them, but we got to be able to listen to people who we don't agree with and try and understand where they're coming from too. I'm definitely going to listen to the Republicans.
All right. Thank you for your time this evening. We really appreciate it. Lewis in Rome, New York, Republican. Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
How are you?
Good, very good. Thank you, C-SPAN, for your wonderful coverage. It's the only place I can go and get uninterrupted coverage. All the other networks and Fox and all the other ones run their commercials and everything. You guys at least let us see everything as it happens. I think the Democrats, when they had their House investigation, did not allow the president's team or the president any chance to rebut what they said. And I think a lot of what they're saying is conjecture and hearsay. And I can't wait for the president's team to put on their case.
Lewis in Rome, New York. Thank you. Lori, Kent, Washington, Independent Line. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. I'll keep it short and sweet. I think the whole presidency of Donald Trump is a cult of celebrity. It's disappointing and it's embarrassing, and it's no wonder that people from around the world think we're crazy. In the future, when I travel abroad, I'm going to tell them I'm from Canada. Thank you.
That's Lori in Kent, Washington. Well, that's going to conclude our live coverage tonight. We will continue this again tomorrow night, but we also want to let you know that at noon tomorrow, the president, for the first time, a U.S. president will be speaking at the March for Life rally, and that will be live Friday on C-SPAN. Now, the